Thank you very much. All three excellent speakers, very different, and yet there were some very similar themes coming through all that. We, obviously, because of the nature of the three speakers was very different, if we could have some specific questions to an individual or a generic question that could embrace all three subject areas, that would be good. So who would like to get the ball rolling? We have one at the front here. As before, if we could have your name, although we all know you, but if we could, Paul, if we could have your name and organisation.
Andrew Eborn from Octopus Media Technology. A general question. We basically have seen the phenomenal success of the Games and the main Games, or the warm-up act, if you like, and the Paralympics. What's the one thing that should have been done differently?
Right, Richard, would you like to... Well, you, to be fair, Richard was away for much of the Games in the States on business, which I'm sure some of you are aware of. So why don't we begin with BT first, because you were intrinsically involved.
Excellent. Thank you for that. A real gift, as you would say.
You can be briefer, that's the advantage.
Yeah, exactly. What would BT have done differently, or what we would have done?
Successful Games, what should have been done differently?
I think, from our perspective, I think we also underestimated the scale of what was going to happen, and I don't necessarily mean in terms of the technology, because we kind of get that, because that's kind of what we do for a living. What I think we underestimated is how the nation was going to catch on to it, and I think if we'd have understood the amazing energy that was in London. I mean, people on the tube spoke to each other as opposed to stabbing each other. I mean, that's kind of useful, right? The whole kind of seeing those guys from an African country queuing for a bus outside with their Olympic medals on, I think we underestimated probably the mood of the nation, maybe. And in our consumer campaigns and some of our other marketing efforts, we may well have tried to have understood that a little earlier and perhaps, you know, not jumped on the back of it, but prompted some of that about nationhood, maybe. I don't think we quite nailed the nationhood stuff that actually came out of it. And everybody was a Londoner for a while, which was kind of cool. So, which is why I live in Dallas, obviously. Well, yeah.
For me, I think that getting the British media to have done a more positive coverage in the build-up would have been helpful. You know, I think they were looking for things that might go wrong rather than, you know, what's been an amazing job by an amazing number of people. And I'm hugely proud, although only tiny part associated, but of the work that was done. And I think history has proven who was right in that instance, but that would have been better for everybody.
Richard?
I think that, I mean, I can't think of anything that has been done wrong. I think I'll answer a slightly different question, which is what I think the next big challenge is. And I'm a stadium guy, so I'm going to say the next big challenge is getting the Olympic Stadium right for the long-term legacy use. There's clearly a process that's going on at the moment, and whether one more of those groups is successful, is actually converting an athletic stadium into something that is going to be a vibrant, round the year venue. If football is one of the main things that's going to happen in that stadium going forward, football traditionally doesn't succeed very well in stadiums with athletics tracks. So how are those challenges going to be met? And I think that's the big thing over the next sort of year they've got to get right.
And one for later on discussion afterwards, the networking at coffee, would be the plight of the London black cab drivers and Regent Street and Oxford Street traders, who I'm sure will tell you that there were lots of lessons to be learned. It's quite interesting to hear how central London businesses view the Games compared to the original promises that were made to them. That's an interesting debate we can have later, I'm sure. Next question, please. Another question, anyone? Well, let me ask you a question whilst the hands are pondering to go up. I'll start, I think I'll start with you, Richard Arnold, because obviously you come from a very different world from the Olympic world in many ways. Do you think there are any lessons from the type of model that you presented today that the Olympic world could take on, and vice versa? Is there anything that you've seen from the way the Olympic world operates and that you could adopt in your world?
I think that it's been an inspiration, the inclusive nature of the Olympics. You know, all walks of life, corporate and individual, and I think that that spirit And some of the charitable activities that go with it are things that certainly we'll see that as our benchmark for what represents a success going forward.
So, other Richard, there was a lot of talk about in the Olympic Games the spirit of not just the fans, but also of the athletes and everything like that. Do you think there are lessons to be learnt in football from what was shown there?
I think so. I mean, I was fortunate enough to go to 2 or 3 events at the Olympics, and the reception I got from the volunteers, from the army, from everyone who was there was stunning compared to anything I've ever experienced in a sporting venue or an airport or anything like that. It's getting that enthusiasm, that level of customer service that makes you feel wanted and loved when you turn up, getting that into a venue, a sporting venue, when the guy doesn't have that sort of enthusiasm because they were a volunteer at the London Olympics. It's how can you get that customer service?
Neil, anything to add on that?
I think we're right in the middle of the Paras, and I think the way that the Paralympics is going to change the way that we view disability, I think, is just going to be stunning. I'm fortunate enough that I was a guide runner in the Barcelona Paralympics, and that was 20 years ago. And the stadiums were half empty, In Athens, only 1,000 tickets were sold for the Athens Paralympics. 2.5 million got sold for the UK Olympics. So I think, the ability for us as a nation to understand disability and actually look at some of the amazing stories that are coming out and engage with that community well beyond the Paralympics is a great opportunity for us.
Any questions? Final question. We have one here. And it'll be our last question because we're bang on time.
I thought I'll get the audience involved here. Just a quick question. My name is Bobby Said from Emma Media. With regards to what I've seen about Manchester United on the Olympics and everything else that's happened, and of course the success of the Paralympics as well. Now there's a fine line between sports and entertainment. So how would you describe, with a global audience looking at this great event, how much would you say was an entertainment? I mean, Usain Bolt is a prime example of a showman, entertainment. So of course there is sporting attributes involved. There's no one taking that away. But there are superstars out there, and those superstars are entertainers. So what would you say is the fine line between an event of this caliber? How much of it would you say percentage-wise entertainment? How much of it would you say is sporting virtues?
Okay. We'll start with you, Neil. Briefly, please, all of you.
I mean, great sport is entertainment. I mean, that's what it is, really. And Mo Farah actually isn't a massive personality, but he became a massive personality as a result of the sport that he delivered. So one is in hand with the other.
Richard Cheesman?
I think that's right. I think we looked at how many Facebook followers Manchester United have. Those are Facebook followers. They're not going on to Manchester United because they're seeing a game on Facebook. They're going on to Facebook because they want to be part of the experience. It's part of their entertainment. And you can't have one without the other these days, I don't think.
Richard?
I think the entertainment is better when you care about the characters. And I don't think there's any, in the films there's good cops and bad baddies, and in sport there's your team and everyone you play, or the Jamaican team and the rest of the team in the 100 metres, or however you're looking at it. And I think that whoever you support, if you care about the characters, individuals, teams involved, it makes that entertainment more. And I think, again, looking at all of the people in the room, what's the one thing we have? Sport has that. It has people you want to win. It has people competing, and often you'll turn on and you'll watch an event, and perhaps you'll pick a team that's losing simply because they're the underdogs, or you'll be supporting Usain Bolt because he's such a larger-than-life character. But in all instances, the entertainment is so much better when you identify and you sympathise with the teams that are involved.
Fabulous. Richard and Neil, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Brilliant. Thank you.